What is happening, Scene family? It's your boys Joe and Zach here with another episode of Stoppage Time FC. We're hoping that our boy Ronnie can stop by and join us. But if not, you got our company for the next 45 minutes or so. So, Joe, how you been, man?
I'm doing well. A little tired today. Been a long one with my daughter's soccer taking up my evening lives because I'm on dad soccer duty 2 nights a week for Jordan, and then my youngest I'm the assistant coach for. So we're there Monday through Thursday until pretty much 8 o'clock most nights. So we're a little busy, but we are good. Excited to be back talking some soccer. It's been a couple of weeks. Some big happenings have happened in the past couple of weeks since the last time we've been on. So looking forward to chatting with you and shooting the shit a little bit with some soccer.
Yes, sir. And I can't think of a better way to relax and unwind for the day than to talk about the beautiful game. And I think that really the best way to start the show is to talk about the booming headline in the football world, and that's the Newcastle takeover. The $415 million sale of the relegation bound Newcastle United, or are they? Joe, thoughts?
This is something that's been talked about happening for quite a while now. This ownership group from Saudi Arabia has been trying to purchase Newcastle for a couple of years and has been uh, continually pushed back by the other Premier League teams and the and powers that be. So it's a very exciting time if you're a Newcastle fan. When the news dropped this past week, the fans all immediately, whether they're at work or not, left and went down to St. James Park, which is their home pitch, and had themselves a little celebration, had a little good time because this is a momentous situation that happened with the amount of money that they will now infuse into that club. It's going to be my club is we just talked about off show a little bit. Our ownership group is worth a little over $30 billion, and when they bought Manchester City, it was a really big deal because they had plans for renovating the stadiums, building an academy, and for the city, putting money into the infrastructure and the culture around the stadium. And that's exactly what's going to be happening in Newcastle. The ownership group is worth, what we say, about
Yeah.
$300 billion.
Yeah, it's an absurd
It's an
amount.
absurd amount of money. And Newcastle United, for those who don't follow the Premier League as much, is a club that's got a lot of history. They've fallen off recently. They've been down into the second tier and back up a couple times in the past couple of years. And so getting a ownership group that's passionate to get in there and to turn that club around is great for the club. I think it's gonna be good for the Premier League. The other owners in the league are not super duper thrilled, it seems, because they've already been holding some meetings and expressed their uh, distaste, I guess, for the takeover. The jealousy is seeping in a little bit, I think.
The thing that really is interesting to me is, like you said, this has been a long time coming for the past couple of years, but it was always talks that while the Premier League, the front office was pushing back because Saudi Arabia is not really, they're known for bad working conditions, unfair treatment, that whole thing. The whole thing that Qatar is going through with the World Cup right now, and the way they're treating workers and essentially becoming slave drivers and just basically holding people's lives at stake for a little bit of money. Um, Saudi Arabia is very much known for that as well. And the talk was that the Premier League didn't want to be associated with that. Um, but it turns out that the real reason that the Premier League was pushing back is because Saudi Arabia currently had an issue with BN Sports, and BN Sports was publishing and producing all of the Premier League games in Saudi Arabia, essentially cutting the Premier League out of it. And so the way that they got around that was they're like, well, if you cut off BN Sports and then we'll allow this sale. So it's just it. for such a good opportunity. Like, and as a Chelsea supporter, I'm super excited for this. Like, I'm really excited. I'm happy to see Newcastle United be relevant again. A la the days of Alan Shearer, back in their glory days, and St. James Park, like that. I've never liked going to St. James Park. Like, no matter where Newcastle is in the table, it's a tough place to play. And I really think that this is going to be a good move for them. Um, and I hope that it's not marred by the ownership and the way that the Premier League is. And I know a lot of clubs are pushing back, but this is the way that the world is going. You know, everybody in the Premier League had an issue with Roman Abramovich, because he was really the first big mega owner in the Premier League, and it steadily changed hands. It was, the Glazers and Liverpool and Man City. They all got those, that money injection.
Yep.
This is no different. It just happens to be a much larger, obscene amount. Um, and I saw a figure the other day that's absolutely outstanding. The Premier League and UEFA have already okayed a January transfer window budget of Newcastle United of $190 million. That falls within financial fair play. That's absurd. Now,
That's a
I don't,
massive amount for a January window. For those who
I,
don't know, people don't spend a whole lot of money in January. Usually those big bucks and those big budgets are reserved for the summertime.
and I don't expect them to come anywhere near using that amount in the January window, but just to have that sheer amount of money, it's going to make changes. And I know that I know for a fact there's been three names already linked with them. One is Wesley Fofana, who obviously is out with that horrific leg break.
Nasty, nasty. Yeah.
Um, the other is his teammate Yuri Tielemans, who would be fantastic in St. James Park. And the other one, I'm praying to God that this does not happen, because I really wanted him to stay at Chelsea this year and not get loaned out, was Conor Gallagher. He was brilliant at West Brom, and he's brilliant for Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace right now. I'm really hoping that Chelsea do the right thing here and don't take the temptation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would not be shocked to see Newcastle climb from, I think they're 19th on the table right now, up to eighth, seventh or eighth, with a good solid January window. We'll see who they bring in as a coach. I'm also hearing rumblings that the one man I don't want to see in the Premier League come back is the number one target,
Mr.
and
Conte?
Mr. Conte. And then the second name on the list is none other than Super Frank.
Really?
So it'll be really interesting.
Their current coach is still, or manager is still in place. They are having meetings, I think, today and or tomorrow regarding his future with the with I can't forget her, the lady who brokered pretty much the deal, the big money deal
Mm-hmm.
for the for in England. She's kind of being the representative for the ownership group who's kind of staying out in Saudi Arabia, and they're having meetings with Mr. Steve Bruce to decide on his future. So that I would imagine is going to be coming down the pipe here pretty soon with a
Eight
managerial change.
£8 million buyout. Not that I mean that's a drop in the bucket for
If you're Steve Bruce,
them
that's
now.
hey, I mean,
Yeah.
sucks to walk away, but 8 million ain't nothing to scoff at
Mm-hmm.
as a parting gift.
Yeah. So much of the way that we saw Manchester City kind of rise and their, the Etihad and the academy was built. I would not be shocked to see St. James Park completely overhauled, a whole new training facility. I know the city of Newcastle's got to be excited for
Mm-hmm.
the influx of cash, because it's going to create jobs, it's going to create everything. And Newcastle, is a lot like Manchester in the fact that it's a very blue collar, area. It's not an affluent area. So um
It's life changing for a lot of people there.
yeah.
That's not
Yep.
like underselling it at all. Like that is or overstating it. Sorry. That's not overstating it. That's a life-changing situation for a lot of people in that city.
Hmm.
And I know their training grounds and some of the other facilities are not in the best of state right now. So that is going to be probably priority number one, because if you're going to have all this money and try to attract all this top quality talent and a top quality manager, the facility has got to be in tip top shape. So that's got to be priority number one. But huge news coming out of Newcastle.
Yeah, and truthfully, I mean, they have a good core group of a couple players. They have Saint Maxime,
Mm-hmm.
who is rapid. They have ex Atlanta United Miguel Almiron. He's there. He's been doing well. Callum Wilson's there. So like I think Jolington's there. Um, so they have a good crew, to start. It's just finding pieces that they can secure in January to get them into a position where they're not relegation bound anymore, and they can, you know, come into the summer, and you're gonna see headlines where
Flex.
it's yeah, it's
Flex on some folks.
yeah, it's gonna be weird because you're gonna see headlines that say Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Newcastle all battling for, X amount of stars, or this star or that star, and you're like, what?
What?
Yeah. And truthfully, it's bad news for clubs like West Ham. It's bad news for clubs
Mm-hmm.
like Tottenham, and it's bad news for Arsenal even, because that's just another team that is now in the running to take away potential game changers for them,
Mm-hmm.
and to get them from being that fifth to eighth tier into the top four. And so, it's going to be interesting, and I'm here for it. I mean, it's nice to sit in a position where you don't have to worry about it. I guess. I the threat of new money and new teams does not worry a team like Chelsea. Does not worry a team like Liverpool or City or United, for that matter. But it's still going to take away from potential signings.
Even the Leicesters and the Tottenhams and Arsenals, who are been just a notch below the top four, that are classic teams. But with this takeover, that kind of starts shooting them up the board and kind of starts taking away, if things are done right, it takes away the big money of European football from somebody. There's not going to be enough spaces for all of them. And we've seen some mismanagement happening in some of the other clubs. So if they can come in and make the right decisions off the bat, they're going to be in prime position to snake some spots away from some of our clubs that have been at the top, battling for the top, 5, 6, 7 spots.
So this is my question for you. It's going to be the death of one of these three clubs. This is effectively going to kill Everton, Leicester, or Palace. Just for the simple fact is, and Palace, the only reason I include Palace in there is because with the signing of Patrick Vieira, they are a destination that people can look forward to now. Now, I don't know if Vieira has long-term plans there, if this is a stepping stone for him, to go on to a bigger club, which I imagine he would.
Mm-hmm.
But, Palace, right now they're sitting in 14th, but they are perennially one of those teams that hovers anywhere from 6th to 12th. They're that classic mid-table team, a lot like West Ham, to be honest.
Yep.
But I really think that it could spell disaster for one of these teams, and I'm talking like long-term ramifications. I'm almost inclined to believe it's going to be Leicester, even though they have the money, and they have they're the newest influx of money other than Newcastle, obviously. But they've always seemed, at least to me, Leicester's always seemed like that team that threw enough money to stay relevant, but not enough to get them over the hump. And so I don't know where it goes. Alex in the YouTube comments says, first he said, I bet more and more clubs will be taken over by oil wealth. It seems inevitable. I don't know if it necessarily would be oil wealth, but you will see
Big
more
money.
teams. You will see more teams being purchased from large money makers. That's no doubt in my mind, because people are seeing how profitable it is. And then he and then he said, imagine if Newcastle swiped Kylian from Real Madrid and PSG. That would be absurd.
Meh.
I don't think, and see, this is the problem that Newcastle's gonna have right away. And I'm gonna take a line from, I can't remember if it's an NBA or a college basketball guy, but he may actually, no, I think it was Mel Kiper. They're 2 years away from being 2 years away, because they are gonna throw all this money, but they're not gonna have enough pull to attract the Mbappe or the Holland this summer window, because they don't have enough infrastructure there. They don't have the draw. They don't have the pull of the Champions League and that kind of thing. This is going to be one of those things where they're going to have to slowly inject money, like all the others, that I've mentioned before this. Roman did it with Chelsea. Sheikh Mansour did it with City. Like, you got to build and
Hmm.
gradually get better, and you got to do it right. So um, that would be absurd if they do somehow manage to swipe a big name like that. But I think the big names that you're going to see are going to be something like, and this is completely out of left field, but maybe an aging Tony Cruz wants to try his hand at the Premier League, you know, and he can, Newcastle's obviously going to have the ability to pay the wages now. So he can afford to go to a team like a Newcastle where he can make an absurd amount of money weekly, like he is at Real, and still play every day, because Tony Cruz is at that point in his life where he's not going to start for City. He's not going to start for United or Chelsea or Tottenham. Well, okay, he'd probably start at Tottenham, but that's neither here nor there.
Truth.
Um, but yeah, like to kind of wrap this up, like I'm excited. I'm excited to see Newcastle be relevant. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm hoping that it triggers kind of a domino effect with teams either selling to people who want to inject more money, or the current owners are like, well, if we ever want to be anything in this league and not just a mid to bottom table clinging on, to shared revenue, then we're going to have to put up or shut up.
Mhm. It's gonna force them. I to go back to your question, Leicester was the first team that I thought of as well, because they have good enough players to compete, but every year their top two or three of their top like 5 or 6 guys are getting purchased by other people. And they've done a really nice job of replacing those guys, but at some point it's going to catch up to you.
Well, and there's going to be one big name that's gonna leave eventually, and I don't know how you're going to replace Casper Schmeichel.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one that is, it's literally game changing.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's going to be a lot harder to replace. It's easier to replace a uh, Danny Drinkwater to kind of poke fun at Chelsea. But on the same foot, they also sold us N'Golo Kante, which you never replace.
Nope.
So I don't know. I'm here for it. I'm excited, and I'm ready to get back. I'm tired of these effing international breaks. I don't want to hear about them. I don't want to see them. I don't care about the Nations Cup. I don't. Sorry, Alex. I don't care that France won it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care that Timo Werner scored 3 goals. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's regaining his form. He's never had an issue on the national side, gaining his form. I'm tired and I'm gonna call them out. Not that I think anybody's watching from that group, but I'm tired of the U.S. soccer group and their constant just harping on things that they have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm ready to get back to meaningful football in the Prem, in Serie A, in the Farmers League, in La Liga, and I'm ready to get back to the Champions League for crying out loud.
Feels like it's been a long time. And now that they've shifted to like three, at least in CONCACAF, having three matches in like an 8 period day or period span. Like at this point, for like Rod and other United supporters, and in stoppage time, with Varane being out for a couple of weeks, and they have a really tough stretch of the schedule coming up here. All we're hoping for as people who are predominantly club supporters, just bring my guys back healthy, please.
Healthy.
That's all I care about.
Goodness.
I don't care how good Raheem Sterling's form is with England, because
Yep.
he's been better there than he has been with City. I don't care.
Yep, that's the same thing. That's Timo Werner in a nutshell. Always brilliant, for Germany. But I'm sorry, I could look good against North Macedonia. I don't care. I don't care. I said what I said. Like the international breaks are useless. All they do is they injure players, and I get it. It's World Cup qualifying, like yada yada yada. I don't care.
So you agree with Thibaut? Why play a third place match?
Yes, it doesn't
the Nations
matter.
League when it has zero impact on anything.
Correct. I hate that snake more than anything.
I know, but he was right on that one for
But
sure.
he hit the nail on the head on that. It doesn't matter.
Nope. And even I've read people talking about, well, how they play, like for the national teams, how they play impacts their FIFA standing, and the FIFA standing is how they draw the World Cup pots. And don't you want to play against better teams and avoid them? So we need to be in the highest possible seeding. So we have to take all of these matches super serious. And it's like, miss me with that. I just want my guys to be healthy, and I just want the United States, on a personal note, to actually qualify this time.
I'll take shit. You have no idea what you're talking about for 800 because
yes,
that stuff doesn't matter. It's just like, I can't tell you how many times I see comments about, oh, well, Pulisic needs to leave Chelsea. Tuchel hates him. The kid can't stay healthy. Like I am the biggest Christian Pulisic supporter. I think if he could stay healthy, he would go down easily as the greatest U.S. men's national team player ever. He is that talented. The problem is he cannot stay healthy. And him leaving Chelsea is not going to change that. He needs a new training regimen. He needs to adopt something like a Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, obviously, no one's going to be that absurd because there is only one Cristiano. But if he can't stay healthy, he's not going to play. Period.
With a T.
Yes.
So that's all. That's the biggest thing with these international breaks is let's just get our guys back healthy, please.
Yes, and Varane, that's a big loss for United, because otherwise you're looking at Harry Maguire,
and he's out too,
and he's even more
injured, and he's out injured too. So now they're going to be stuck with Lindelof, and who else? Is Bailly still there?
Yeah, I think Bailly's still there. Is Phil Jones. Is Phil Jones still there?
I
joke. I kid.
Faces of Phil Jones. Look those up if you ever haven't seen those in a while. Take a peek. Phil Jones faces, and you will get some.
Those are brilliant.
Comedy gold.
So let's just quickly touch on the leagues. The Prem is looking like it should for the top four. And I don't mean like it should, like I expected it to, but just the teams that we expected to be there are in the top four. Chelsea's in first, Liverpool's in second, City's in third, United's in fourth. Where it gets kind of interesting is 5th through 7th. You have Everton, Brighton, and Brentford. the newly promoted side. So Brentford's got a tough matchup. They got Chelsea this week, so that should be interesting
The
to
smile on your
see.
face when you said that just now was very telling.
I wasn't as excited until I saw that the man, the myth, the legend, N'Golo Kante is back to training today. So I'm
That's
ready
good
for him
news.
to get back on the pitch. Um, Tottenham's in eighth. Uh, Big Shots team. Arsenal is in 11th. They're on good form though. So they are climbing. Leicester's all the way in 13th. Not a good spot for them. And in the relegation right now is Burnley, Newcastle, who will not be there for long, and Norwich. Um, so it'll be interesting. I think this is the year that Southampton
Take the fall.
they don't stave off the relegation fight. They've fought the good fight for 3 or 4
Several
years
years.
now, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to last any longer. I think this is it. Um, the Serie A is really interesting to me, and I don't know if you've seen it recently, but what world do you imagine Juve is in seventh? So Napoli is in first. They are perfect on the year. 7 wins, no draws, no losses. They have only allowed 3 goals all year.
I just pulled the
So
standings up, and that was the first thing I looked at was the goals against, and they
it's
scored
absurd.
18 and only gave up 3.
So not that he hasn't warranted it already, but Koulibaly and Napoli are about to get paid in the summer window
For sure.
because I know that they've dragged their feet because they've been in European football, but I think Koulibaly's gone. I think
Hmm.
that at some point Napoli have to realize that he's going to want bigger and better adventures, whether it's the Prem, whether it's in La Liga. You know, he's going to want that taste. So that's going to be. I can almost guarantee that Koulibaly is gone
And
in the
he's getting
summer.
up there, so he doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of years left.
Yep.
So it's going to be that's time to make that move because I'm not going to be able to get to first team football at a big club if I stay here another year or two. It's going to be I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to Father Time is undefeated, so it's going to eventually be catching up to him. So now is definitely the time for that guy.
Yep.
Both of our clubs were linked with him at one point, so
Mm-hmm. And rightfully so.
he's a he's
Koulibaly
a
is
he's a
brilliant. He's
quality center
brilliant.
back.
He's built like a brick shit house, and he's quick. He reads the game exceptionally well. He very rarely puts himself in a bad position to have to be covered by his teammates, which is something that I really can appreciate in a defender, and it'll serve him long term. It's much like um, Sergio Ramos and why he's always had a good career. It's Thiago Silva's same reason. They can play at a high level for such a long period because they're smart. And when you're smart, you don't put yourself in a bad position. You don't, overcommit yourself, which in turn leads to injuries and things like that. So, I Koulibaly is getting up there in age as far as peak transfer window, but I think he'll be fine for a while. Second and third, you have the two Milan clubs. AC Milan is exactly who I thought they were going to be. If we go back to the talks where we talked about who had the best window, they were one of the clubs that I said that I was most impressed with. Small but meaningful signings are sometimes way more important than the huge splash, and it shows. Roma sitting in fourth. Jose. The man just wins. Like, other than Tottenham, uh, the man just wins. It's what he does. Um, so Fiorentina, who I know that you are watching closely with, for the life of me, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Vlahovic or whatever the hell is
Dusan Vlahovic.
Dusan. Yeah, that guy. I know that City's been linked with him for a
That
hot
guy.
minute now. Yeah, that guy. Uh, it'll be interesting to see where Juve, Atalanta, where they end up because they're sitting in seventh and eighth respectively. I'm sure they'll right the ship and be
What's
right
real
there in the
in,
fight.
what's real interesting is Atlanta, who is a very open and free-flowing type of team, have only scored 10 goals in 7 matches so far.
Mhm. Well, they don't have quite the firepower that they did, when Tonali was there before he went to
Hmm.
Milan, and so that hurts. The team I'm watching, and this is pure morbid curiosity out of the amount of U.S. players there,
I know who you're going to be talking to.
and then also Chelsea has I cannot think of his name for the life of me right now. Um, anyway, it doesn't matter. Is Benizia, and they uh, they are a newly promoted side, so I'm curious to see how they get along and if they can stave off relegation and continue to play the youth.
Hmm.
Do we need to talk about the Farmers League?
Probably not.
Hey, guess what? Bayern's in first.
What?
Yeah, I know. Shock face.
No
Uh,
way.
Leverkusen is in second, which is interesting.
There you have a young guy there that is balling out of his mind right now. And the
You talk
Florian
about
Wirtz.
Wirtz? Yeah,
Yeah, that kid.
he's disturbing. The
That
kid
kid
is
is
really, really good.
nasty.
The Ballon d'Or list came out, and also now I'm drawing a blank. The under 21s.
Yep.
They have a name for it.
I can
And
see it in my head,
and
and I can't
and
say it off
yeah,
right now.
Florian Wirtz is on there, and I really think he should get it. But Jeremy Doku's on there, Tuchemani's on there, I think, which is interesting
Mhm.
because it says now. Help me understand this, Joe. It's the best player under 21, right?
Correct.
So how are players aged 21 on this list?
That is
It's not 21
absolute
and under. It is under
under.
21.
It says specifically under 21.
Help me help you. I don't get it. Dortmund's in third. Freiburg is surprisingly in fourth. Who have not lost. They
I
just have
say without
a ton of draws. They are the only team without a loss in the Bundesliga right now. Riddle me that, Batman. And then Wolfsburg is sitting in fifth, who, if the rumors are true, I heard just signed Ricardo Pepi.
they're allegedly in final negotiations with contracts for him, which means their current striker, is it Weghorst,
Mm-hmm.
um, might be on his way out come January, because I've heard rumblings in the readings of Pepe being going there is that Weghorst is unhappy, and is causing a bit of a ruckus a little bit there and was ready to move on. So
The dude's name is Woot Weghorst.
woot.
Like Woot. But if Pepe goes to Wolfsburg, he'll be teamed up with his U.S. men's national team compadre, Jonathan Brooks. Whether you
I
like
think
him or not, he is a staple in the back line of the U.S. men's national team.
and
And that's
Wolfsburg.
where, and Wolfsburg. And that's where I'm going to end that because I'm not going to talk anymore.
If Pepe goes there, that's all. That's a good fit, I think, because their coach is known for developing younger guys, and
Yeah.
he'll get game time in the Bundesliga. So I think
And
that's the right move.
if he hits his stride, like he's been playing well, then he will in turn get sold to Dortmund, who in turn will then sell him to Bayern, because that's what happens
That's what
in the Bundesliga.
facts, facts on facts.
We can move over to the La Liga now, where Real Madrid is in first, Atletico Madrid is in second. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Real Sociedad, Sevilla, Osasuna, and then that's the top five. And then you have Barcelona, who's not sixth, not seventh, not eighth, all the way down at ninth.
Oh, there they are. I see them.
Yeah.
They're a mid-table club right now.
They're barely above Villarreal. The Champions League team who won the Europa League last year, who are now in 11th. This is why football is interesting, because you have weird shit like this where you can have a team who wins a major European competition and then they pretty much become almost irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Just fall off.
I heard that Barcelona is going to go the way of Real Madrid, and Barcelona will be closing Camp Nou next year for renovations, and they'll be playing all their games at one of their training pitches,
Mm-hmm.
which will be interesting to not have the fans, you know,
And the numbers that they're
in a situation where they can have fans. It worked out great
Right.
for Madrid because no fans were allowed anyway. So they could take all those teams, and play all those games and not have to worry about it.
no harm, no foul.
Right. And that's not the case, with Barca if they do that next year. In a good transition from Barcelona, we can go to Ligue 1, where, in other news, water makes things wet and PSG's in first.
Really?
Interesting enough,
By a wide margin, too.
Messi came out and said that Ligue 1 is much more physical than La Liga, which only makes me wonder how he would fare in the Prem. Because if Ligue 1 is much more physical, buddy, you are a frail toothpick who would be taking a beating in the Prem, because I don't know if you've seen Premier League defenders recently, but they're all rather big, they're all rather strong, and they're all rather fast. So,
and they have a certain personality, let's say, about them, but they don't take no shit.
Yeah.
They do not shy away from contact or throwing in shall we say borderline tackles a la Frudiger.
Trav, what you got for us, brother?
What's going on, y'all?
Welcome, sir.
Oh man, just enjoying the show, man. I got a couple of comments coming from the Facebook. I think you reading out some from YouTube. We thank all y'all viewers for coming out too.
Absolutely.
Josh Storms, he said we have CR7 back. Barco being terrible is still almost my favorite thing this year.
Josh, kindly go back to watching baseball. I'm tired of hearing about Cristiano Ronaldo already.
Big shot. He's watching along with us right now. He's saying if Barco makes you Europa, I'll be shocked. And Unea just waiting to get knocked out by CL group stages, so he can get in Europa. And Holly Restrick, she says it's time for you to go to bed.
Don't let the wife fool you. When I told her that I had a show, she's like, "Ooh, I can watch my show now." So
we also appreciate Vic and Jerry in the YouTube comments for reminding folks who are watching to don't forget to like them videos.
Yes,
anybody who's a parent and has a kid who watches an absurd amount of YouTube videos, you hear like the video, subscribe to the channel,
like, share, button, and subscribe.
Hit the bell button. So
get notifications on.
Yes, you hear that nonstop. So there's a reason for that, a good reason. So help us out with that. Don't forget, like the video.
Because we do this because we love this, but we also do it because we want to help others enjoy the game as much as we do. And I know that that's one of the biggest things that I love about the scene and all the folks here is that we all share this insane passion for our sports, and we want to do it the right way. Like we don't want these skip hot takes and like that's not what this is about. We want substantial, factual learning experiences and to help anyone who even isn't as excited about a certain game to maybe broaden their horizons. And I can't tell you how much I've learned about the game of basketball just from 94 feet. Like I was a casual basketball watcher, and just the amount that I've learned off of off of Trav and MJ and Jay and, Big Shot. It's really something. So, between all the platforms that we have here, we can definitely get you covered. But from the bottom of my heart, I know that I appreciate each and every one of you just for tuning in. Even if you don't like, share, and subscribe, I do appreciate it nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't agree more. Well said, sir. Well said.
We have any more comments, Trev?
That's the only ones I got up from YouTube at this time.
So the one thing that I think we can close the show out with is, we do have the Champions League returning. I don't know if there's really anything that we need to be said right now, because this will be match day 3. I think the next show will be at the halfway point of the group stage, and we can kind of see where teams are falling. The one interesting team that I can't stop talking about is Sheriff, though.
Mm-hmm.
This team has come in and just taken the group by storm. They are top of Group D, 2 wins, knocking off the mighty Real Madrid, and also a win against Shakhtar Donetsk. So they have Inter coming up. And I'm telling you right now, if they beat Inter, they are going to win this group.
And they have two matchups back to back, home and away, with Inter as their next 2 ones. That's going to set the tone. And if they can get one of them, that puts some real pressure on Inter and Real Madrid, because one of them might miss out. And that's 2 huge names to not be in the knockout stages.
Yeah, one of them's going to the Europa League, where Barcelona may not even make, because right now they're sitting in 4th in their group.
Ronnie's not wrong on that.
He is not. He is speaking facts. So we have that to look forward to. Joe, and I know that now that you're here, Trav, I kind of want to see your thoughts. I don't know if you've seen much of this, but the big headline, not named Newcastle right now, is the NWSL's complete collapse, essentially, between sexism, anti-harassment, and it's apparently this is going back all the way to like 2015, and the fact that it's taken this long for it to come out is absurd. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on why do we keep having this problem. And it's kind of like, and I've talked about this, and if anybody that's listening wants to come on the show for an episode, I've been dying to do, and we just haven't had the time to do an episode on racism in not only football, but also sports in general. I know that it's super bad in the game of football, so I've been dying to do that episode, and it's one of those that's going to be a very serious, kind of heavy topic. So it's one of those that we'd probably have to dedicate a Saturday or a Sunday.
Which football? The one with the U or the one with 2 O's?
Yes, but
to both.
Both.
But I'm talking about the one with the U, because it's so openly. It seems like every day, and just not too long ago, and I know Rod had made this post. The Italian league they might be the worst. They were chanting at I feel like I can't think of his name, but they were chanting a derogatory term for gypsy, which is in Italy is kind of thought of as lesser than scum, dirty.
It was Dusan.
It was Dusan, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
And so they were chanting this during his post-game interview, and it was just it's disgusting to see. So I want to do that show. I would love to have anybody and everybody from all of our platforms, any of our fans, to come on and talk about this, because it's a really serious topic, and I think it's something that we can have a good discussion about. But I'm like, why do women's sports constantly have this issue with sexism and harassment? And the NWSL is now the most recent one.
I think they've had 4 coaches, I was reading earlier tonight, all get fired for harassment, racist remarks, abuse, physical and verbal.
Good.
And all gone. But it speaks to the powers that be, the people in charge that are still pretty much in power in the majority of the executive roles in and around all the sports. That's why it continues to happen, is because of people who are supposed to be setting the tone for the culture, for the whole league and for the teams. Their morals are out of whack, and they don't really care. In my opinion, it's just it's not a big deal to them. It's ingrained in their nature. We saw it with Gruden recently, where he felt he could just speak that way freely with his coworkers, and it was not a big deal. That tells me that the rest of those guys that he was shooting emails back and forth with speak that way on a regular basis.
Yeah, it beat me to it. It's one of those things that you and then you see the apologies. Well, I don't that's not how I act, or that's not who I am. Motherfucker, yes you are. Like, you just got caught. And the difference is, you want to cover it up like you're not a racist, like you're not a sexist, like you're not, and I'm not down with that. Like, if that's what you are, that's what you are. Like, embrace that, like, ride that. Don't try and backpedal and save face.
I can't stand the half-assed apologies that we can see through. Just don't even say it, because we know you're not sorry.
Yep.
And don't pretend like you are, because none of us are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and as a father of 2 girls who play soccer, reading the accounts from what some of these women have had to deal with from a trusted coach just makes me absolutely furious. Like, I was reading some of this stuff, and I was just like, I had to put it down for a few minutes because my daughters were sitting right there, and it's just infuriating to think that people who are in power and in a position that is supposed to be a trusted position take advantage of that and utilize it for such disgusting acts.
It hurts. Like, and I don't know, like, and I know that you know this, and I know that I know this, and Jerry in the comments, he knows it because we have girls. Like, maybe it hits harder because you have a daughter. Like, maybe it strikes a nerve more. But regardless of whether or not you have a daughter, like, why is this okay? Like, why do you think touching your players inappropriately is okay? Like, what? It's like, and this is a slam against one of my former coaches, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is no different. Like, and then he gave the "we're all sinners." Yeah, clearly, like, we all know this, but that doesn't, like, just take the medicine, man. Like, just, it's who you are. And if it's not who you are, then make the positive steps to change. Because I believe that people, if they want to, can change. If they have to want it. And until wanting the change is a commonplace, and it's something that people think is more common than not, then we're going to have this constant battle with sexism, with sexual assault and abuse, with racism. We're going to have this constant battle where people think that it's okay.
They don't fear the consequences. Because in the women's soccer league, the accusations were known of the 4 coaches that they were talking about. They were known. and
For
everybody
years.
knew that they were these kind of guys, and they continued to get hired and get jobs, and they even knew about it, and then they just kind of like swept it on the rug. And when they reassigned them to a different part of the organization, it was for football purposes. It was for other things. It was never, these guys are doing some dirt, we're investigating it. It was always pushed under the rug to protect the perpetrator and never the victim, which is a giant issue.
And the really sad thing is, truthfully, I think that the reason that it got pushed under the rug so much within house is because if you look at the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, it's not a very stable league.
Nope.
It's been one that's gone and back and forth, and the money isn't there like it is in a lot of sports, and even the WNBA knows this. They obviously don't have the money coming in that what the NBA does. So if you take the NWSL and the MLS, even that disparity is disturbing as far as like support and things like that. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in the MLS too, because I'm sure it does. But it makes me wonder if it got pushed under the rug because they were worried that if these allegations came out, that it would cause the league to fold again. And that's that self-serving mindset. I'm not with that.
Couldn't agree more. That's exactly what it was, because they didn't want to see all the stuff that they've worked towards just fall apart. And so I think some of the players potentially that crossed their mind when it came to, because I'm sure that there's more players out there that have had these issues that just aren't coming forth. And that is potentially because of the same thing that you just said. They didn't want to lose their livelihood. There aren't any other options for women when it comes to soccer in the United States. This is the league, and there's not a lot of choices available to them to go play in other locations. So they are stuck in a hole, and the coaches knew that. They knew that these players didn't have a lot of other choices, so they took advantage of that, which makes it even more sickening.
Yeah, because unlike even the MLS has the USL, a second tier, whereas and they're not directly affiliated. Like it's not like AAA and MLB. It's still close enough affiliation that MLS teams have associated teams in the USL. So it's not even like the NWSL has a secondary league that they could go to. And for those players that aren't good enough to make the transition to European football, because even though the US is a powerhouse at women's soccer, they're not all of them are good enough, or even, and I will say that it's not necessarily that they aren't good enough. Some of them don't want to. Some of them don't want to go to Europe and play. They like their life here in the United States. So not having those options really hurts them. And the owners and the bigwigs in the NWSL feared that someone was going to be sticking their hand in their pocket, taking money out their pocket. And they're like, I think we can keep this quiet. It's okay. So, I think that's probably enough. We probably should have started it on that instead of ending with a heavy topic, but it was something that I wanted to address and get across.
That's good, because that will be talked about real soon. We will have the whole cast on here, and we will talk about that, because at this point, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. Enough is enough. And yeah, we got smacked with it late, but it's better late than never.
Amen. So that'll probably wrap up the show for us. I want to thank, Joe and Trav as always. And truthfully, Jerry, Alex, Vic, Big Shot, even Mrs. Westrick, if you're still watching. I doubt you are, because she's watching F Boy Island on HBO Max. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting us. And as always, we appreciate you. That's Joe and Trav. I'm Zach. See y'all later.